Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello, and thank you for downloading the Horse Show on Wisp Sports. This is Season 4, Episode 5, and I'm Chris Stafford. Well, with less than a week to go now before horses start arriving in the Kentucky Horse Park for the Land Rover Kentucky 3-day event, there is a tapering off in their fitness work with just some final hacking and gymnastics ahead of what is a long road trip for most competitors. And American Caroline Martin will be heading north from her winter training base in Ocala, Florida this weekend with 2 rides, Islandwood Captain Jack and Danger Mouse. For this leading under-25 rider, it will be her 4th trip to the park, but this time her partners are 2 different and relatively young horses at 10 years old, so her expectations for clean performances that will be career-building as she eyes the long view with World Championships and Olympic Games in her sights will be first and foremost. Both horses have had the ideal preparation with easy rides at the Carolina Horse Park and Red Hills Horse Trials to test their fitness, but the rolling hills of the Kentucky Bluegrass will be the ultimate test for these 2 10-year-olds. Caroline has been training with some of the best, though. She's been doing her show jumping training with 5-time Olympian Ann Kursinski, as well as dressage trainer Betsy Steiner, and she's had access, of course, to the US team coach Eric Duvander. So she clearly is making sure she has all the I's dotted and the T's crossed for this, which is the only 5-star event in North America. And I caught up with Caroline to hear what her expectations are as she counts down to Kentucky. And later on in the program, I'll be talking to 5-time Olympian Ann Kursinski, who has been coaching Caroline. And she explains the difference in coaching event riders to do pure show jumping, as well as training the horses themselves to jump in a different shape after they've been cross-country. But before we talk to Anne, let's hear from Caroline about her preparation. Hi, Caroline. Welcome to the program.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, a week to go before the big event. It's a journey that you know well now. This is going to be your 4th Kentucky. How's it going so far?
Yeah, so far so good. Just got done with the Ocala International 3-day event where I ran 1 young horse in the 2-star long and then rode some young horses, and now it's a little bit quiet before the storm, we like to say.
Yes, the calm before the storm. But it's an exciting time, especially when you've got 2 horses. This is the first time you'll have 2 rides at Kentucky. They're going to be Islandwood, Captain Jack, and Danger Mouse. So let's talk about each of those and your preparation, because you've had them out, obviously, in some warm-up events here. You've done well. You were 5th in Carolina with Islandwood, Captain Jack, and you got 3rd at Red Hills with Danger Mouse. So let's talk about the journeys that these 2 horses have had so far. Let's start with Captain Jack.
Yeah, well, Captain Jack, I actually got him as a 4-year-old, so I put all the miles on him, so that's quite special for me. I enjoy getting them when they're young and producing them because you know everything about them and they know everything about you. So he is 10 years old this year. Last year was his first season at Advanced, and he got 2nd place in both 4-star long, and he's had a good season so far. He just ran 2 events. He did the Advanced Horse Trials at Carolina and the 4-star short at Red Hills, and just taking it easy with him and just, you know, making sure he's fit and happy, and it'll be a good test for him, but I think he's up for the challenge. He has quite a bit of thoroughbred in him, so I think Kentucky will suit him a lot.
And what have you learned about getting him fit, Caroline? Because from each season we tend to learn something about them and, you know, fine-tuning them for what's going to be now a 5-star event. It is the big one. What's he telling you?
So we did do a little fine-tuning. I went down and spent 2 weeks ago, I spent a week with Kursinski in Wellington, and he jumped a few Grand Prix, and we did some dressage work, and then he did the combined test, the 5-star combined test at Ocala, and, you know, I'm just fine-tuning the skills. Again, I've had him since he was a 4-year-old, so he knows how to jump the jumps. He knows how to do the flat work. It's just making sure that his body feels good and his mind's in the right place, and that, you know, this last week is just making sure he's enjoying the work and is relaxed and not body sore. You know, it's like any professional athlete. The week before your biggest competition, you don't try to cram in all the homework and all the fitness work. You know, you just kind of take it a little bit easy, and yeah.
Well, you mentioned there, Anne Kursinski, getting some real show jumping in. They're really important now to obviously specialize in each discipline. It's proving more and more important, isn't it, to specialize, and no better trainer than Anne Kursinski, of course. But you also told me that you also train with Eric Duvander and Betsy Steiner. So what is behind the selection of these? I mean, we go through different coaches, we go through different horses who need different things. So talk a little bit about your selection of coaches at this point for these horses.
So with Anne and Betsy, it's a bit to do with location. They live within 30 minutes away from me in Pennsylvania. Anne is obviously such a great coach and established mentor, and she's done so much in her career. She's a 5-time Olympian, so I don't think, honestly, there's a better person out there for show jumping. And Betsy, I've known her for about 10 years now, and she's so kind to the horses, and she's running on a lot of team competitions, and she's very, very kind and understands how event horses should go. You know, eventing horses are a bit different than pure dressage horses. But Betsy's a great coach with being firm, but yet, you know, very kind to them. So, and then Eric Duvander is our coach for the U.S. eventing team. So he's been invaluable to my program this year. He's made very big improvement in my program, also mentoring me and helping me establish my business. And I think I have a good squad this year of coaches. So, yeah.
And a great lineup of horses, too. What have you learned as a rider, Caroline? I mean, going through young rider ranks, you rode in England last year at Bramham, a couple of tough courses there, Bramham and Houghton Hall. You must be evolving, I mean, as riders do, and obviously with what horses teach you as well, and the horses that you've got and the experience that you've had so far. What do you think, as a rider, you're bringing to Rolex this time? I say you're bringing to Kentucky. We have to get used to calling it Kentucky.
I know. The thing that prepared me most for this competition, yes, riding overseas, that's an incredible experience. I have to thank everyone for the Karen Stives grant. That was great going there last year, and being on Nations Cup teams, it's great to have that type of pressure because you have to come home double clear. And last year we got the silver medal, and that's great practice. And that does translate to Kentucky because, this is the biggest competition of the spring season for us in America. It is a lot of pressure. We're on home soil. American hasn't won Kentucky in, I think, about 11 years. But for me, it's both my horses' first 5-star long. They are quite young. So for me, they need to both have a positive experience because they need to grow past this point. So I'm not expecting either of them to win Kentucky this year. I want to think more about the legs coming up in the next Olympics, and producing them for the future and making sure that they stay sound for, the next 6 years, because again, they're only 10. So hopefully I'll have them for a long time and for many more 5-stars.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the other horse, Danger Mouse, is American gelding, a warm blood. Talk a little bit about his preparation, what you've done, why you chose the Carolinas, where you got 9th, I believe, with him there, and then you got finished third at Red Hills in the short, at CCI 3-star short. Talk about that preparation, why you chose those events, and how it fits in the overall scheme of things in terms of the total career profile and what you're looking forward to.
Yeah, well, both of them, I picked both of them to do Red Hills for the first outing because I like how Red Hills has it's a big event and it gives has enough atmosphere in all three phases, so it's a good place to get their feet wet. They do take care of the ground very well. The questions are hard enough. They have Chris Barnard as a show jump designer, so everything is up to standard. And these horses, again, they're 10 years old. They're old enough that they don't need to run too much. So they did, Danger Mouse did the 3-star short just to get a nice little gallop in. And then I took them and did the Future Teens event that USCT put on, which was an easy way to explain it is it's a fake Nations Cup. It gets us, we had 4 people on the team, and we had to practice on what it's like to be on a team. And I picked that for Danger Mouse because I like to be put under the pressure and practice everything you do when you go compete overseas. So Danger Mouse is quite good at Carolina. I like that course. It's very bold. Ian Stark designs it, so it's a great final prep run for Kentucky. That he makes all this kind of the same questions that we'll see at Kentucky: a proper coffin, 2 very strong waters, big jumps into the waters, like the corner line which is the last question, so the horses are a bit tired. Everything that you kind of get at Kentucky. So yeah, both horses only needed those runs, and then hopefully they feel prepared for Kentucky. Again, they're young horses, so they don't need to do too much, and we'll see what happens.
Talk about the strengths and weaknesses of each of them, Caroline, and what you will be focusing on now and hoping to have as your takeaways from these 2 events. Because as you said, you're looking at the long picture here ahead and how this will be, just a continuing progression for these young horses and education for them. And you want them, obviously, with every event to come away with confidence. But realistically, what are your expectations in each of the phases for these 2, and what are their strengths and weaknesses?
So Islandwood, he's about 70% blood, and he gets very hot in the dressage. So again, his weakness would be dressage. So I played around at Red Hills and Carolina to see what bridle and what type of warm-up combination suits him. And then I did the combined test this weekend at Ocala, and I think I finally found the correct way to get him rideable for the dressage arena, as he scored a 31 in the 5-star test, which I was quite happy with. He's a very good, knock on wood, cross-country horse. He's very fast and light on his feet, and he's very good about taking off and landing in the same place. He's very rideable. So wherever you put him in the jump, he'll try to stay straight and try to find the flags out, which I don't think a lot of horses are quite. I think he's quite special when it comes to that. And then show jumping, he always tries to jump clear, but he'll never be that tired, and never has been that tired like he will be at Kentucky. That's a 12-minute long course, and it's mostly mentally tiring for the horses. So I hope he jumps clear, but again, I've never asked so much out of him. Danger Mouse, he's Dutch. He's by Voltaire Stallion, so he's bred to do show jumping, but he has quite good movement and suspension for the dressage. Cross country, he's very good cross country because he's honest, but he does get a little bit tired because he doesn't have as much as thoroughbred as Islandwood. And then show jumping, he should be good, but kind of the same thing. He's never been mentally that tired. So I hope for the best, but we just have to see.
Absolutely. Well, as I said earlier, you're used to this track. You've been there a few times now. What are you most looking forward to of the occasion? Well, because it obviously is the best we've got here in North America. It is what all riders want to compete in. What are you personally most looking forward to?
I personally look forward to Monday after Kentucky when the horses are sound and happy, and I get to put them out in their field at home, and they get to go on a month holiday with no shoes on. That's honestly what I love the most, that it went well and went as well as I hope it can go, but they come home safe and sound. We put a lot of work into these horses, and we put a lot of work to get there, and honestly the most rewarding thing is just getting home and kind of looking back on the adventures and watching the videos and stuff like that. That's just what I love, and I love waking up in the morning and seeing them out in the field. I'll put the two horses out together in the field, and they love that part. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, of course we all look forward to that, knowing that they're fit and happy and well after the event. But during the competition itself, it's a big occasion, great atmosphere. Which elements do you most get excited about, and how do you handle the nerves, the composure, the mental game?
Oh, I love cross country. That's what I live for. And when it comes to nerves, I don't mind them. I kind of enjoy getting nervous, and I enjoy the thrill of waking up in the morning, cross country morning, and you just feel a little bit sick but excited, and then getting the horses tacked up and thinking about your course one last time and walking the course in the morning when the sun's coming up, and you kind of get into a routine, and you find a routine that works for you, and that's how you cope with the nerves. You can't just sit and do nothing. I try to keep myself busy, again, walking or cleaning my camper, doing silly stuff like that. And then when I get on course, you just put all fears away, and you just go out and attack the course.
Yeah, there's a kind of fever, isn't there, on the Saturday morning before cross country? It affects all of us, no matter what our role is at Kentucky. Yeah. It's just that excitement, the adrenaline, that nervous anticipation. Even for people that are watching, there's that excitement of the event and how it's going to go. And if you know any of riders and horses competing, then you're invested as well emotionally too. So it's a great event. You probably feel as a rider all of that energy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And honestly, I'm expecting to go cross country, which is a good thing. I like being first out. I like just getting out there and get going, and I don't really like watching people because I want to stick to my plan. And if something goes wrong, then you just ride off of instinct rather than worrying about, oh, well, this person did this many mile strides, or you rely on what other people have done. And then kind of once I get the first horse done and out of the way, then I usually feel more confident for the second and third, or whatever, how many horses I ride after that. I ride, normally at shows, I ride up to, 7 horses. So it's good for me to be first out, and then I can feel like I can get back into my normal routine and enjoy the day, hopefully.
Talk about your team there, Caroline. Who's going to be helping you?
So I have a girl named Casey McKissick. We actually run a business together. We split the time between Ocala, Florida, and Pennsylvania. She's coming to mostly mental support. And then I hopefully have Ann coming to help me show jump, and Eric will be there as he's the team coach, and he'll be helping a lot of people. But I try to keep it just the same as every other show. I try not to do anything too fancy. Kentucky, yes, it is a big deal, but I think people get a bit too wound up and just treat it like any other competition.
Yeah, but it is very special. It's hard not to consider it. Consider the atmosphere and the energy that it produces. And now being the only 5-star in North America too. So exciting times for you, Caroline. And I know, as you said, you're going to be looking forward to the Monday after, getting those horses home and turning them out to pasture.
Yep, absolutely.
That's what it's all about. All right. Well, now in the lead up, then, what's the plans this final week? What's the routine for them?
So they'll be doing some fly work, one final gallop, and then a little cross country school. Not too much. They'll just jump into the water and jump a ditch. So really not too much, and a lot of hacking. Just making sure that they feel good and they're mentally happy. And I'm fortunate enough that the person I work for, I get to ride some of his horses. So I'm heading there right now to go take 5 green horses first time cross country. So I get to stay in shape while my horses get a little bit of a letdown. So it's perfect.
Absolutely. And when do you actually leave for the drive up to Kentucky?
I was thinking Saturday night so that I can get there Sunday and they can have all day Sunday off and hang out in the stall and just take a nap. I think it's really important for their days off that they get to sleep and it's not too noisy and busy. So that's why I rather travel Saturday so that we don't have to touch them and bug them too much on Sunday.
Right. Well, obviously you're going to be keeping busy, especially with all these other horses to ride. Do you get time to do any cross training? Is there any other part of your fitness that you work on?
Yes, I used to go to gym quite a lot. I just had a few surgeries this winter due to broken bones. So sadly, I'm not as fit as I normally am. But I got to say, all winter I've been riding up to 20 horses a day. So it hasn't... I think I'll be as fit as anyone else there.
It sounds like it, Caroline. Well, I'll let you go. You sounds like you've got a busy day, but I appreciate you stopping by and good luck with that journey to Kentucky. And we will see you there and follow your journey during the event. The very best of luck. And thanks for taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you. No problem. Have a good one.
And Dan Kursinski joins me now to talk about coaching event riders and training eventers to jump like a show jumper. Hi, Anne. How are you?
Great, thank you.
Nice to have you back again on the show and talk about your passion of coaching, as we often do. But this time we're going to talk about the eventers, because you are coaching Caroline Martin, who I've having on the show this week to talk about her preparation for the Land Rover Kentucky 3-day event. So is this a new partnership then, Anne? Have you been helping her a while?
Last fall, I started helping her, maybe the end of the summer, and then last fall, I went to the hill with her and helped her there the day of show jumping, but she'd come to my farm, and she came to the horse show in Princeton with me, which was great, just like we just did in Wellington last week, not just to do the schools at home and lessons, but to really see her in a competition environment and how I would train somebody from walking the course to setting the jumps to, critiquing the rounds and things. So that's been wonderful working with her.
And she did very well down there, isn't she? I think you were very impressed with the way she was doing pure show jumping.
Absolutely. She couldn't come during the main WEF season, so she came the first week after the first spring show, what they call in Wellington, and brought 4 eventers. And she rides very well. She really could do show jumping if she put her mind to it, if she really wanted to. All of the horses were good quality, were great to work with. I know 1 or 2 of them are running it in Kentucky. A lovely gray and a very nice chestnut. And the first day we did just sort of they had a schooling jumper class, but it was all in the international arena there in Wellington, which was super. And watching them go and how she rode and changed the bit on 1 or 2 of them. I changed one to a hack a bit, and totally different ride and lighter and smoother and not sort of stopping and going that maybe she has to do cross country. And so fun to work with the event horses. And then and this other event horse,
Danger Mouse. So there's Islandwood. Captain Jack is her grey, isn't it? And the other horse is Danger Mouse, the chestnut.
Yes, yeah, the chestnut. So those 2 were good event horses that she could ride like show jumpers. Some clear rounds, maybe a rail down, and jumped like 1.40 meters, which is bigger than that they have to do in the show jumping, when they're eventing. But then this other one, Capital or something, I forget his name, but anyway, a big brown one that she has also evented, but she might not do it anymore. When I saw him at Princeton, I thought, he could really be a show jumper. He's careful and he's scopy, and so she had done the 1.40 meters, and I think she was clear. And then, okay, let's do the Friday, kind of a mini pre or maybe sort of a welcome class, and that was 1.45 meters, 1.50 meters. and with a couple of meter 50 verticals. And she's brave and game, and yeah, why not? And she actually had a fabulous round, just one jump down. And she said, I've never shown that big, and for sure I've never shown him that big, and he jumped it easily. So I said, sure, why not go on Sunday? And I love her game, fearless. Yeah, sure, why not? And that had some meter 55, more meter 55, maybe even a bigger vertical, and definitely a harder track. But she rode it beautiful. Each day she rode more consistently what I was looking for. I guess I'd say a little smoother, and good for her to watch a lot of show jumpers. There were still some good ones there. Margie Engel was showing, and a couple of some had gone off to the World Cup finals, and some were taking a break. But it was really good for her to watch the show jumpers. Anyway, she jumped around with 2 jumps down, and she really rode well, and it was big enough for it was a real national Grand Prix. One I thought was sort of, he just jumped it a little like an eventer, a little flat, and maybe she could have slowed down a little more to the triple combination, but it was a very respectable. If she did it a little more, she could really be quite good at it.
You often hear now, don't you, of the eventers really specializing in dressage and show jumping because they have to. They have to fine-tune those 2 disciplines. They have to take it up a notch to what they did maybe 30, 40 years ago. Are you seeing more riders that are coming to you that are eventers that are coming to you for show jumpers? And also, what are you looking for, Anne, when you try and transition them to a show jumping way of going?
Yes, I've had a few. Matt Brown, and last fall I had several more. What's his name in North Carolina now? His sister came and worked with me a bit. Anyway, a very, very nice group of kind of started working with me again. And now that I'm back in New Jersey, a few have been reaching out. The biggest thing, I guess, partly the smoothness, following the horse to the jump, and then sort of settling and finding the distance a little smoother. And the overall riding part of it, position, I always, of course, work on their position. And yes, it's different than what they have to do cross country. Some have been maybe just taught also, we got to get the horse sharp, or I don't mean run it through the jump, but this sort of sharp, maybe after their cross country or something. But for me, really, really, like I always do, just ride well, ride a little better, ride a little smoother, and understanding how putting them to the base to get a rounder jump, to get to change the horse's jump and his style. Now, again, for some of the event horses, it's hard because they're used to galloping and jumping flat a bit for what they have to do, and up and down and cross country and everything, the drops and all. But trying to really get the riders to feel that and understand that, which really has been great. A lot of them have started to get it, and Caroline really gets it. And then when I can also help them at a show, at a real competition, just a show jumping show even, it was fun to go to Fair Hill and see the eventers and work with her there. But to really come, and even she said, Caroline had said it just to go again and again and again in the ring on the 4 horses, to just practice the show jumping, it was great. She just got so much out of just doing that. And as I said to her, I know you're show jumping. It's to get the ribbon or the medal. It's the final thing. And there's all this pressure. And even her horse is kind of feeling that, this sort of pressure, that here, just doing it sort of a class each day. And yes, she was trying to learn it, but not that pressure of, the final day that, oh my God, if I have a jump down or 2 down, it's the end of the world. So to be more relaxed about all of that as well.
Because the challenge for eventers is to get the horse back on a tired horse that's been going flatter cross-country, and bringing him out on a Sunday and bringing him back and getting him round again. So when you go to Kentucky, what sort of things will you be looking at to try and, and help the horse too? A horse, that's tired after going cross-country.
Yeah, actually the other rider, I worked with Daniel Classing and his wife, I think. So he's another younger up and coming rider. And My exercise about counting also, that seemed to help a lot of them. And at Fair Hill, it's interesting. Great working with her there, having had her at Princeton and had her at my farm. We actually didn't jump very much. We worked on just getting right to the base. Interesting, just to change the shape. Sure, and she might on one get a rub and, get them a little deep and get a rub, but not over jumping. Really also going over the plan, walking the course and talking about every detail of the course and the turn and again, where to make the time allowed, a little shorter turn and things. The track, because I know some of them, then they have time faults in the show jumping because that's a factor. When the short turns, maybe they're not really used to it and things like that. So kind of going over all of that, but a little bit short turns in the warm-up, putting the horse to the base. But honestly, we didn't really jump very many jumps at Fair Hill, and I just assumed not, especially since we had a good rapport, and she knew what I was looking for, and I knew what I felt like her horses needed. And whereas it was interesting because some of the other riders watching in the warm-up ring jumped a lot of jumps, and I thought, they don't need to jump a lot of jumps because you just went cross country, they're tired and all of that. So in a quicker way, I don't know, setting the jumps quickly, slow, low and then higher and wider, and putting them to a sort of a deep distance, maybe pulling them up right away after the jump. A few things, I guess, that to me are very normal, but I know some people watching were like, wow, that's really different and interesting and how simple. Yeah. Hard to say exactly.
Right. I mean, each situation, each horse is different. But are you looking at it, when you're putting the horse to the base, are you looking at more uprights then in the practice for the few jumps that you do give them, more than giving them an oxer? Because you don't want them to flatten.
No, oxers definitely, but to the base of the oxer, not
right.
This long distance to the oxer. And if anything, sort of what I would say a little loose, and then loose way back, a little loose gallop. And then that they have to pat the ground, they have to wait, they have to get to the base, not that sort of long eventing thing. Get to the base and square oxers that they have to get around the front rail, and over the back rail. Mm-hmm. And then the vertical, the upright kind of to finish. Again, I like to start with an oxer and then finish with the vertical to get them even maybe a little more weighting and back and that kind of thing, especially with the eventers.
So when you look at event riders then, and, they may get into old habits that, that's got them by with show jumping, what are you trying to convert them to then? I mean, when you say, okay, this rider could do pure show jumping, could be a show jumper,
yeah.
What is it you're seeing?
A good sense of the distance of being, initially maybe not, they don't go to the base initially, but yeah, being able to wait and put the horse to the base and that you get a round jump. I guess that kind of feeling. And then again, that how to find that out of a smoother gallop. Most of the show jumpers, I mean, all countries now, it used to be more Americans, but a smoother ride, and again, this smooth position, not throwing their bodies or leaning forward or leaning back. Most of the top riders have this wonderful body control. Of course, Beasley and McLean, you see it all the time. Kent, but other riders, this body control. So working on that a lot of the eventers, they sort of have habits sometimes of either leaning way back or, sitting up in front of the jump and then throwing themselves on top of the jump. And again, a little bit with their pace not being quite as smooth. And even Caroline said, sometimes cross country, you really have to, after a long gallop, you really have to put them together and get them back for some of these, sort of combinations, whatever you call them, cross country. And which I certainly understand, but then sometimes the show jumping gets a little bit stopping and going, short
yes.
one, and then there's sort of long one, and there's, short and long, which that to me makes the horses a little flatter, that inconsistent part of it. And yet I totally get, after going cross country, your horses are different. And even Caroline, I said that to her, I understand that this isn't like doing your stadium jumping after you've, gone cross country, your dressage and cross country. Not exactly, but you're still trying to get that same feeling, to get the shape. And, it's like several of the top eventers even, Mark Todd, he could do dressage and winning in Grand Prix show jumping and eventing. And isn't there a German that's so good?
Well, Michael Jung, yes, he does both. Yes.
And, that some top athletes can do both. Even though everybody gets kind of specialized, but the really good ones are really with a great feel. They can do all three disciplines. I don't just mean eventing, but show jumping and top dressage and and eventing.
Yeah, we were seeing a lot more of it. Michael Jung, you mentioned, of course, 3-time winner at Kentucky. Ingrid Klimke, of course, famous Ingrid Klimke. She specialized in show jumping as well, and it's becoming increasingly important, the weight that is put with the marks, that the weight that is put on the show jumping. So, there's a lot of a discussion around that, that they don't want it to be a dressage competition or you hinge on the cross country. It has to be not equal, but there has to be a relative ratio of the value each of the three disciplines. But when it does come to the show jumping, you've got a tired horse. You watch that when you're talking about, pushing and pulling in the show jumping phase that the eventers are used to doing, and then you see people like that have done a lot of show jumping, like Michael Young, like Marilyn Little, who's ridden in that event now, of course, a few times, when they take that much less out of the horse.
Yes, absolutely. No question. And Caroline really noticed that, and it was fun because Marilyn was jumping last week when Caroline was jumping, and they were talking about it a bit more, and her comparing, what she's been taught cross country and then what I've been working with her, and some things, and you'll have to ask her, but she had said even from my previous training last fall, she was using some of my concepts with her cross country horses, going cross country. And just what you're saying, part of it also not taking so much out of them by doing it a little more smoothly. I really think
It's the rhythm, isn't it? It's just getting into the rhythm, staying in the rhythm, and and keeping that horse in the shape that you want him. But you see these tired horses at Kentucky or in other events too. They just get a little bit longer and a little bit longer as they get more tired around the cross country, around the show jumping course. Yes.
As you're saying, the rhythm, then to me, it's the balance. It's the balance and how you can affect the balance again without being too rough in this stop and start backwards and forwards. It's more the gallop and the rhythm and how is the horse's balance for each jump or each the combination or the vertical or the triple bar, being able to feel that balance in the horses. And without it being a huge change, you know what I mean? It's subtle balance,
And Richard Jeffrey, who's been designing that course now for, I don't know, I won't remind him how many years, but he is a master, isn't he, Anne, of producing the course. I'm sure you've seen it with that course, how he just asked the right questions. And the timing, of course, as you mentioned earlier, very often there's the odd time fault because he set the course so brilliantly, and he asked the right questions. It just seems to me that he's a master of that course.
Absolutely, he has a wonderful feel for it, and he understands what the horses have to do cross country, and then to come ask the question show jumping, and it's fair for sure. It's fair, but it's difficult, and again mental. For some of these riders of making the time allowed, or I've got a triple bar or a pair of oxers and then the pair of verticals, you got to slow down to those, and that's where I think it's great when the eventers can do more show jumping, like they go to dressage competitions as well, to practice at real show jumping shows So again, it's not this huge, oh my God, it's life or death, if I knock a jump down or not. Or it's not like, just to go in and practice and you knock a jump down and you learn from it. And even watching Caroline last week, just through the week. And she's a wonderful student, and she really learns a lot by watching as well. But just by doing it, and just over the week, watching her get it and just slightly changing things, and even putting the hack-a-bit on the one horse, his balance was better. She had more control, then she could actually be lighter because she had more control instead of, oh my God, I got to hold him because he's going to kind of run away. Put the hack-a-bit on, and he was like, okay, oh, you want me to stay right here? That just some minor changes. But it was not just lessons, and I think lessons are good. We've done the lessons so that she understands my thoughts, my strategy, my position, all of those things. But then to do it in a real horse show environment, the whole warm up, all of it, just wonderful for those riders.
Yeah, it really is, and maybe. You will get more riders that will be coming to you and to eventers, that is, to perfect their show jumping in their quest to win that coveted title there in Kentucky. But we're going to see you there and maybe helping Caroline there on show jumping day. So we'll look forward to that. But thanks for taking the time to do this, Anne. I appreciate it. And maybe we can convert you to do some eventing sometime.
No, I don't think so. But I love to watch, and I love to see how courageous they are, and love to see what horses can do. Their horses are always fascinating to what they can do and what different ones love to do. And so I look forward to seeing you in Kentucky.
All right. Thank you so much, Anne.
Thanks, Chris.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
And I will be at the event with live coverage and exclusive interviews on our Facebook page. That's from the 25th through the 28th of April from the Kentucky Horse Park. So do join me then. You'll find links to Caroline's social media and her website on our show notes accompanying this episode at wispsports.com. Just go to the Listen tab and look for The Horse Show. You can follow us on social media at Wisp Sports. You can also drop us a line if you have any comments or questions to info@wispsports.com. And as I said, I will be back on our Facebook page from the Kentucky Horse Park for the Land Rover Kentucky 3-day event. So until then, thank you for listening and supporting women in sport everywhere.